This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Welcome to the NBA Team Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Andrew Riche. I am joined by Adam Murray. We are finally at the end of the regular season. It was a slog at the end. There were a lot of DNPs. We had a record number of DNPs one of these days this week in the NBA. So clearly people are already, doing the Cancun chant. We don't do Cancun. We even if I was in Cancun, I think I'd still do the show here. But how do you feel, Adam, about people sort of with the mental checkout as we got to the finish of the regular season when it's supposed to be ramping up and a lot of people were ramping down?
A lot of people just ramped out and just gave up,
or they just jumped off the ramp and
like we mentioned just so many times with the play out teams already so pre-deadline. Even just we knew Washington and Utah and Brooklyn and
yes.
Well, Memphis gave up. Like I would not have expected Memphis to blow up their team. I would not have expected Utah and Washington to be like, okay, next year we're gonna have to jump back in.
What's sad? The Bucks didn't even blow up their team and they tanked. They had Giannis Antetokounmpo and they tanked.
They didn't tank. They just weren't good. And when he was out, the lack of just bad GMing sort of did that.
And then your youth movement pushes where you're like, well, we're going to give the young guys a chance. Oh, so you want to actively lose while teaching your new superstar like Cooper Flagg in Dallas or Jeremiah Fears in New Orleans. Like, oh, now we're going to give them the playing time because we know that they're not efficient enough by themselves to carry the team that wins.
And we will get into all of these teams more in our Gone Fishing postmortems.
Yes.
But there's two different cases of GMs. There's the ineptitude GM in Chicago, and then there's the desperation GM
what do you
in
mean
Milwaukee.
In Chicago, the GM in Chicago, there is no GM in Chicago.
Currently because of ineptitude. Now let's just we're on Milwaukee, so let's just focus on them. They were desperate, so they waived and stretched Dame Lillard to get Turner, who didn't fit.
Yeah.
It's not that he's bad. It's not that he's washed up.
And they used all their cap exceptions to retain guys like Kevin Porter Jr. and Ryan Rollins and guys like that.
The team they have is not a complete team. And then, they're not sitting going, we're just going to collect our money and do it. They actually made moves based upon their negative cap space they had. They just picked every wrong player. And even with Cam Thomas's, this guy's Lou Williams. He's a 20-point off the bench, no problem, and then he's gone within a month.
When you see this, it's a shame when you see this. We're seeing it in current real time with Jeremy Sohan. There are just guys where, you just keep holding out hope, and you hope that wherever they were originally drafted and developed and showed signs of life, that you think, man, maybe they go to the next destination and they'll thrive, and it just doesn't happen. But then there are guys like Quentin Grimes who he bounces and bounces, and then he finally lands somewhere and he becomes a star. And you just, there's no rhyme or reason to it sometimes, but it's a shame for guys. I'm just saying for Cam Thomas to say, it's just a shame that a guy like that, he explodes and has good moments on a tanking Nets team. He gets dumped, and then it's almost like he loses his faith in himself. Is that a fair way to say it?
It is fair, but like I said, Milwaukee was just desperate. You try to appease your star, which desperation, nothing wrong with that, but you're signing a two-way and a roster spot to people who aren't going to play. And let's look at
yeah.
No, not Usman Dang. I'm saying Giannis's brothers.
Alex and Thanasis, yes.
Yes, they get two roster spots.
Mm-hmm.
Ousmane Dang, I'm a fan of because that's just a flyer. Like you're going to get no minutes on that team.
Did you know that Jericho Sims got a triple-double? Did you know that the Utah Jazz had a guy named Bez Mabang get a triple-double? This is where we're at. This is where we were at in the season.
Yeah, that's where we're at. But we've seen with Memphis their ability to find players, unsigned players, who are productive. Miami's made a whole career out of getting people from the G League, and well, we're just going to sign your brother, take away a roster spot. And you've seen talent come up out of nowhere. So that's just desperate GMing, making bad choices.
And it's probably all for naught because there's a very good I'm not saying it absolutely will happen. Maybe I'll have to go on Couchy and make a side bet. But I think Giannis will probably get traded in the summer. But
definitely.
I think
that it's time for a separation. Now, on the flip side, we have the inept GMing of Chicago, who it might have been a mandate from ownership saying, we're not going to trade our guys. Well, you need to keep them. You can't do it because we said every year they kept every player way too long and the return was terrible because of it. Now, ownership could have said, I want these guys here. You need to try to make it work. It was the lack of a return. It was they're trading their picks away for
the master plan that they had in 2021 involving getting DeRozan and Alex Caruso. The guy that they wound up letting go, Caruso, was the one that wound up the best.
But they let him go too late. They could have gotten way more for him. And just a directionless, rudderless team. And we're not going to talk about the personal issues of Jaden Ivey. That's
really sad. Mental health, something I take seriously, and it's very sad. I know a lot of people were laughing at the crash outs and the fact that he, I feel like there's a lot of misguided emotions there. But I don't know if it's in the right place. It's been, very, very bizarre. And, the comments he made were stupid. And yes, he did deserve to be let go for saying them.
Well, he's young.
Yes.
B,
I hope he can come back from it is what I'm saying.
Again, they say, most of the battle of coming back from a major injury is the mental hurdle. Yes. And it sounds like that is what has stopped him.
Some guys haven't. There was a guy named Tyrell Terry. He retired. Because he couldn't. The mental strain was just too much. It was just difficult for him.
What about Larry Sanders? From Milwaukee.
Royce White, who became a politician. All of these guys, by the way, I watched them in college and early parts of their NBA career. They were good players. They had talent. They just, the mental side is a struggle for people.
You have Jabari Parker, who just decimated through injuries. He's out playing in Spain and Puerto Rico and everywhere else because he still wants to play. It's just his body.
You have to have that mental resilience, and sometimes it's hard to accept
Anywho, it's not about should they have let him go? It was, why would you trade for this guy? Why would you take a flyer on him? Give up draft capital, as I think they put some sort of swap that they helped facilitate to Detroit to get him over. And then to be like, we're just going to waive you. Wouldn't you be like, we're going to suspend you, we're going to work with you,
and their draft
get you back healthy?
Were not the best. Dalen Terry, they gave up on. Trying to remember Patrick Williams' extension was just horrifying. Like, even when it happened, which I think was last summer or the summer before that, even when it happened, I'm like, everybody was saying, what are you doing?
Yeah, who are you bidding against?
Like, I understand this is your guy and you drafted him in 2020, but like, you didn't have to keep him. You could have punted on it. We traded for a ton of guards. Hopefully one will work. We don't know. But it was just the directionless. And like I said, why are you trading for Jaden Ivey, who everyone was sort of like, this is a great buy low reclamation piece. This could work. I think Josh Giddey is a very good player. His shooting is not there. It never will be there.
Well, you need to put him with somebody. He's not.
Yeah. You need a shooter.
Exactly. So they need something to pair him. He can't just do everything himself.
And you said GM plural, and the reason why is because these front offices, and it's not just the NBA. The NFL does it. College sports does it. You have a president, which was Arturos Karnisovas, and then the GM, and that was Mark Eversley. They were both let go at the same time. It also is obvious based off of the language from the statement that, and also the owner's comments that after the firings happened, that they're very much behind Billy Donovan. And I don't think Billy Donovan's a bad coach. I don't think he's as good of an NBA coach as he would like to take credit for. But I will say this, I think that was a recency issue where I think Donovan was able to get himself some, what's the word? he was
He
able.
just got an extension last year.
Well, here's what I'm trying to say. He did get the extension last year. Now those things sometimes, and owners can fire them and tear him up immediately and take the buyout. But I think he had some momentum, some favorability because of the fact that yes, North Carolina was sniffing around for a coach. Billy Donovan was one of the guys they wanted, and I think that was one of the things that was on the owner's mind when those moves were made. That's why they said we're keeping Billy, we're standing behind him, but the GMs have got to go.
Well, who really knows what's on the owner's mind?
They wound up hiring Michael Malone, which to each their own about North Carolina.
But that is them. So just continuing on the ineptitude, which really is a sort of theme of the year all around from the top down in Adam Silver, with him sort of botching a lot of things. And
yes, yeah, it's been we talked about that on the last episode. It's just been a really bad year for Adam Silver, not you. I think
so. What's worse?
Yeah,
being accused of tanking or being so inept that the league has to investigate your coaching ineptness?
The ineptitude. I think that's worse. Like if you're the Jazz, that's a really bad spot.
No, I was referring to Doug Christie fouling up one.
Well, well, wait a minute. They investigated that and they found no wrongdoing. So
yeah. So is it worse to be you're trying to tank and throw this game, or to be your coach is so bad he made you intentionally foul up one with 3 minutes to go?
Let me say this. I didn't do a Zapruder on that whole play where, by the way, the funniest part about that is Dylan Cardwell was actually having a good game up to that point. So, he is a rookie. He's a rookie big man. But clearly he's doing what a rookie is going to do what the coach tells him to do. So
and the coach, no, it wasn't as a pretty thing. It was just literally him going, I thought we had one more foul than we did. I didn't think.
Yeah. And then, but here's the thing. If the league is at a point, all these corporations, they all respond to public fervor, and the public fervor, especially after Draymond Green made comments in the post game about it. Because Draymond Green, he's better at getting headlines than he is at getting stats. But the thing is, once that got out there, oh, look at this. This team is openly tanking. Look at this. This guy literally is fouling because they don't want to win the game that they're playing in. That once that happened, the league had to put out something so that
they had to look into it because it was so blatantly obvious.
Right.
And then for the results to be, oh no, you're just really a bad coach.
Yeah, you're just stupid.
That might be like even worse. So with that said, let's now move into our coaching carousel. I can't imagine Christie making it.
I think Christie's out. Yeah, I think Christie
Doc, I think would be better just retiring and saying.
Am I wrong, or did he get voted into the Hall of Fame recently?
Yes, he did, but he's going to be ousted.
So he had a very strange interview where they were talking about his being inducted in the Hall of Fame, and he basically was like reflecting on his career, and he basically was telling. I don't want to say it was like a shoot interview, but it was almost like he was just being super candid about his future in Milwaukee. Of like, look, man. It is what it is. If I don't stay, I don't stay. If I don't want to stay, I don't want to stay. And then all of a sudden we started seeing all this intel come out from Shams Charania about how Doc Rivers and the GM John Horst, they were having all these arguments about the roster and how Doc was promised a certain roster and it never came to him.
Which is true.
Yes, but I take it with a grain of salt because Doc also has had a reputation for having loaded rosters that don't deliver. So it's like, they're both wrong. They're both wrong.
they're both, yeah, but it wasn't incorrect of, okay, you're right here. We're going to do this. We're going to do these things for you. But we just mentioned every move they made was the wrong one. No fault of them because they kept trying.
Miles Turner. I think Miles Turner still has time. We've said this.
He'll be better with a different cast around him.
He's a unique type of player where the stats don't always tell the story. Is what it is with Miles. And that's okay. But you got to pay him, and they paid big money for him, and that's what people got hung up on.
So what coaches do you see gone now outside of Christie and Doc, whether retiring or firing?
I'll give you a couple surprises. I think Ty Lue might be getting tired. Like, I think he might want a change of scenery, either take a year off and take the buyout, or maybe the Clippers just make it worth his while. There have been rumors about how he might be involved in the gambling thing, but nobody knows if that's true or not. I think Solo is safe in Memphis. I know you've talked before about Chris Finch in Minnesota. If they lose in the first round, it's going to be tough for Finch because you feel like you're falling backwards because you went to 2 straight conference finals and then you lose in the first round. So it feels like you're going backwards, not forwards. Jamal Mosley, I think, is a dead man walking. I think he's gone.
Unless they have a large playoff.
If they have a big playoff run, yes, it feels like, oh, him and Paulo made up and it's kumbaya. The other one is I don't know absolutely for sure Thiago Splitter is going to keep the job in Portland.
Well, you think they would have given it to him with job he's done with the team, which is very curious.
Remove the interim tag, right? And I don't think it's a legal reason. I don't think that's the reason. They could have just easily said, we effectively have terminated the contract that Sean Billups, Thiago Splitter is now they did that with Mitch Johnson last year when Greg Popovich had his stroke. They said, nope, this is the head coach. This is our guy.
Yeah, we're going to, and they could also, we had a couple month test. We're going to remove the interim tag. Here's the deal.
I think Borrego is staying in New Orleans. I don't think he's getting let go.
He's an interim, so that doesn't count.
Yeah. Ime Udoka, there have been rumors that he does not like the roster that was put together for him. So him and Rafael Stone might not be seeing eye to eye. I don't know.
Well, he doesn't like Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant doesn't like the team, and the team doesn't like Kevin Durant.
But here's the problem, Adam, and this is the Kevin Durant corollary. You need Kevin Durant. You need him.
But that's kind of where he's had that at other.
And then the one surprise I'll give you, I think Nick Nurse might not make it in Philadelphia because I think that they don't want starters to get run to the ground. So they might wind up going with a younger coach that's willing to play more guys.
Not why am I blanking on his name?
Brian Keefe.
It was like you knew I was going to go for that. You think he's safe?
No, I think he's out.
I don't. They've given, he did very well.
I think the 83-point game ended it for him.
No, they did very well in. You need to tank, do this, and he did it. I'm going to play, Will Weaver and Trey Johnson 25 minutes. Everybody's going to be on a minute restriction for some unknown reason.
So what you're telling me is that if the Wizards wind up with a top 2 pick and they wind up with the Bancer or Peterson, Brian Keefe's going to get an extension?
No, I'm saying let's look at a bad team with an overachieving coach in, let's say, Utah and Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, yeah.
The coach, they've won more games than their talent has shown.
Yeah, they actually hit over on the over.
Utah every year has to have blatant tanking because the coach is so good and they're playing so well. They have to have Bryce Sensabaugh only get subbed out for, was it Oscar Chitibwe? Mm-hmm. And then back to Sensabaugh.
Then they bring Oscar Tshiebwe and he has a 22 rebound game. So clearly he knows
because they're only subbing him out and then all the starters get pulled the fourth quarter. Blatant tanking moves, but he's too good for it. You're developing the players, which is what you want to see. There hasn't been that player development of that entire young roster. Then you're bringing in a Trae Young and an Anthony Davis. They're not going to be. There's no culture on that team.
They want to handpick their coach, just like Devin Booker and Phoenix when the bottom fell out last year. It's like, okay, Devin, you run the show.
Who are the ones you're going to play for? Who's the ones that you want the culture you're going to buy into? Because I can't see on a losing team that's not buying in, especially like with Doc when you had Kyle Kuzma go out and be like, you don't need to listen to Doc, and then Kuzma gets DMPs for say if you've lost the locker room. I'm not saying he's lost the Washington locker room. I'm saying with ramped up expectations, I don't think they're going to want to have him see it through because
I just think Washington is such a laughing stock. Like even when players do interviews and they talk about that 83-point game, they just laugh at how stupid they were. And I just wonder like if Keefe just a sitting duck. That's just my thought process. But like, here's the other problem. Trae Young and Anthony Davis have never played together. In fact, I don't think Anthony Davis played a game for the Wizards this season. So
no, he didn't. But we'll get into this.
But who they agree on is one guy. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Not who they agree that they'll be. We need a veteran presence. We need somebody with a game plan. Because we'll get into this in more detail in our postmortems.
Right.
But Anthony Davis says, I don't like being a center. Who do they have? They have a center who can't shoot, and you have a
Alex Sarr.
power forward who doesn't like rebounding.
Hmm.
So that's a situation Davis likes. You have Trey Young who's go, yeah, you can run everything you want. It's all you. He should be happy because he doesn't have to defer to anybody.
Yeah, but then
So
they'll probably have to do some spring cleaning where they trade.
you have to clear out all the
Carrington,
young
or they-
people and
Yeah, they
whatnot.
got.
But we'll get into that. So that's your list of coaches. There isn't gonna. Do you see any surprise one that like where did he
I
come
brought
from?
up
Or-
Nurse. I think Steve Kerr might retire. That's very possible.
I think he'll get a 2-year extension to go with.
He's at the end of his contract, but that doesn't always mean anything.
I meant
And-
him and Curry's contract and Draymond's contract. I think are going to all expire together.
And the last one is I don't know. Jason Kidd wants to stick around in Dallas and do another rebuild. I
But
don't know.
there's also rumors that Dallas likes him and might just want to move him to the
he got
front
an
office.
extension last year because what happened is Larry Dolan thought he was going to sign him away to coach the Knicks after he fired Thibodeau, and Dallas was like, "No, you're not," and they gave an extension. So,
But if they move Kidd up, that's a promotion moving to the front office. So Billy Donovan and Jason Kidd isn't a firing. That's just sort of a
and that
we
happened.
like you. It's not a we're gonna Monty Williams. We're taking you off the bench. We're just gonna give you a front office job.
That wouldn't shock me in Milwaukee. It depends. Also, it depends on John Horst gets fired, which in as the GM of the Bucks, which I think is possible. So that's a whole other scenario. Like what I'm saying is, there's a chance. What I'm trying to say, there's a chance that Doc actually just becomes a GM. There is a possibility. I know it sounds nuts, but it's possible.
It could, and I know this will be sort of a shorter episode as everything's wrapped up. And we've really the same topics have been over and over and over. And
also, I'll give you one aside: is that in college, it feels like they're going after more pro experienced coaches, like Caleb Canales, who had been in the NBA. I don't think he was a hot assistant name or anything. He took a job. Michael Malone is off the market. He took the North Carolina job. So I wonder if the fact that college basketball is going after more pro type of coaches, and also WNBA has more money from their CBA.
Well,
coaches.
There's two different things. The WNBA likes the assistant coaches because they are already pro ready. The NCAA is now beginning to realize with NIL, you can't build a program. So your job is to assemble this $20 million roster into something
and coach them up.
And then, your job is just to coach them up. Your job is not to recruit.
Like Dusty May in Michigan, right? But now now to be fair to Dusty May, he's a good coach. You got to be a good coach in order to coach up a team that's not been.
But you have to coach the roster we gave you. It's not. You can't. We're no longer recruiting your. You're not recruiting the people you want. You are getting the players who will sign with us, like Kentucky every year. Mark Pope is not going out and signing any of these kids. These kids are all handed to him, and he can't put that roster together. Bill Self had that issue in Kansas, not this year, but the year before, where all the NIL guys were terrible.
Yeah, and then you have to deflect. Like I think the rumors going around that Bill Self and Mark Pope are desperately trying to get the number one recruit, which is named Tyron Stokes. So like that's how it is. It's like, well, if I can't get if the NIL transfers don't work out, then I gotta have to get a top recruit. You got to get the talent just got to come from somewhere.
Well, see, Duke just said we're not going to take transfers. We're just going to pay all for the best freshmen every year, whereas
Michigan just had 5 starters who were transfers win a national championship.
Yeah, so that's what the NCAA has become, but we are not on our NCAA team.
But here's the thing: it's not that different from the NBA. You could just replace the word transfers with free agents.
Free agency it's a very, very dim free agent class this year. Then this season in general, let's just talk about it for a quick minute. I know you want to get into your over and unders, which you've kept a list on because you keep records and my bad spoiled milk takes. I went into the season looking at it. This is a desperate year. You have windows closing everywhere, and you're going to see desperation in Orlando. You're going to see desperation in Milwaukee and the Clippers, and those all just went and even Golden State. I'm like these, and well, I said Golden State or the Lakers, one of those two will be good. You can't have both, and I was correct in that. But in New Orleans, every team I said is going to be desperate, and their backs are against the wall, and they're all going to come out hard, knowing this is the end. And every team all went belly up.
Yep.
Even Memphis, I was like, this has to be their team. You have Jackson Jr. and you have John Morant. They have to put together, and all of a sudden, yeah, we're done. We're blowing it up. And I did not expect Memphis to blow it up. I did not expect Atlanta to finally cut with Trae Young, which we knew they had to happen. And then everything just turned up tails all year round. How did that with you? Did you find a similar reflection upon that of so many? You're surprised of all the teams that decide to blow it up, or did this season sort of go as you thought it would?
The season didn't necessarily go the way I thought it would. But there were a couple of things that there's a couple of things that I will focus on that I noticed about the season. Not all good. One of them is that I saw more amplified performances than ever in terms of, we saw a Christmas game where, for example, Nikola Jokic, he's not going to win MVP. He's going to be runner up, but he had like a 55-point triple double on Christmas Day. One of the greatest games I've ever seen. And that somehow almost got topped by an 83-point game by Bam Adebayo of all people. And those are just two examples. Luka Doncic had a 60-point triple double against the Heat. What I'm saying is that one thing I noticed is that I just see the rich getting richer in terms of players just finding these weak defenses and bad strategies with rosters of guys that either don't play hard or they don't have any pride on defense to try to stop the other team. And they are just absolutely accumulating these unbelievable stat lines, and the likes of which that I don't think we've ever seen. In like other than like the Wilt Chamberlain era when he was like 2 feet taller than all of the other players. Victor Wembanyama has had some pretty remarkable performances, but Adam, there's other guys that I'm not bringing up that have had unbelievable games, like Kawhi, and Jamal Murray's been all NBAs. He's had some great ones. Cooper Flagg had a stretch where he had 3 games of 45 points or more in 1 week. He's a rookie, and he almost didn't win Rookie of the Year. That's how well Con Candelo played. So that's one part, is that I'm seeing like unbelievable individual performances. That's one thing I kept going back to. The other two are the fact that there's more accessibility to the league because of Amazon being in the game now with their TV rights, and NBC airing the games on Sunday nights and Tuesday nights, and Peacock. So you see more NBA games on your television and on your phone than ever before. And then the number one thing I'll remember is just the lack of availability. One of the things I love to hear is the old phrase, the best ability is availability. And I think we've seen more DNPs in the NBA this year than ever before. I don't know if that's a real stat, but it wouldn't shock me if we had more people miss time due to injury in the NBA this year than in any point in history.
And I think it's the crafty tanking that we have never thought of before.
At least, yeah. It connects to what you talked about with the tanking and how teams seem to be mentally checked out earlier than ever in the season. That's what I'm going to take away from it the most. But also the fact that, Adam, when these superstars, it's like sharks with blood. When they see these rosters and they're like, wait, that guy's guarding me? They're going to kill them if they want to.
Yeah, and you have the clever tanking of, we're not going to take the G League All-Stars to sign. We're just going to sign literally mediocre G League players, and we're going to play them all 20 minutes. Like you said, Bez and Bang, and the Celtics traded for John Tanji, who wasn't even doing well.
Who was that guy? He looks just like Jose Calderon with the with the Dallas Mavericks. John Poulikitis, is that his name?
Yeah.
Guys,
and
like
so
that.
we're signing G League guys that we know aren't going to be good and aren't going to fit, but we just need a guy to play. So we're not going to get good ones who might be good. We just need a body. And the aspect of just getting a body to play is not good. The brand has taken a big hit this year, and
The
just
league's integrity as a competitive league has taken a huge hit. I agree with that.
which the regular season, the regular
Another thing I will say too, it's a small aside. One of the best rookie classes I've ever seen. This is going to go down the history marks. One of the best in the last 10 years.
well, until next year, as you say.
No, I mean for real. Like, look at it. You got Flag, Knipple, VJ Edgecombe, Jeremiah Fears, Maxime Reynaud's a good one. He's gonna bag a celebrity one day. I'm guaranteeing you. Maxime, look, if Chris Humphries bagged Kim Kardashian, I don't even want to know who. Maxime Reynaud might marry Meryl Streep for real. Like,
way to be topical with the references.
Or I don't. What do you want me to say? Sydney Sweeney? You want me to say somebody hipper? Charlie XCX? Is that better? Ace Bailey's good. I know that team sucks, but Ace Bailey's a good player. Derek Queen is a triple-double machine. Cedric Howard. That's a really good crop of rookies. And it's also the fact that the lack of availability of starters. Well, guess what? Rookies get more playing time.
So back to the original question of over and unders that you were keeping tabs of. Anything of note you'd like to share?
Yeah. So the thing that I noticed, we had a lot of teams we agreed on. And so either obviously if you agree, you're both right or you're both wrong. And we did about half right. We were about half right, half wrong. Boston. Like, we thought they weren't going to be good, including you, the Celtics fan.
Well, us and everybody. I didn't think Nemias Queta would take that leap he did, and then the bench
over-under was 42.5.
Yeah, and that went down. I think it was like 46 to start with, and just kept slowly going down.
Cleveland, we went over on the 56.5. Not going to happen. We were pretty confident with the teams that were not going to be good. So got teams like Brooklyn. Brooklyn went under. The one we got wrong was Utah. We thought Utah would go under, and they did not. We thought San Antonio and Detroit would be improved. They were greatly improved. The one that we were really torn about to the point that we didn't even make a choice was the Sixers. That was the Sixers are always the toughest one because you don't know with Embiid and George what you're going to get.
It wasn't make a choice. I was just like, you can tell me over and I'll agree with you, and you could tell me under and I'll agree with you. And you could say 46 and I'll agree with you. You could say 36 and I'll agree with you. It was, we don't know the availability of Embiid. We don't know, which I think that's kind of just the alpha and the omega of the thing. It depends how many games Embiid plays. If the more games he plays, the more they'll win. The less he plays.
To be fair, a lot of them were close. Like New York was close. Oklahoma City was close because, they got past the number on their over-under, but 62.5 wins is a lot of wins.
Which is why we said it. We didn't think they'd be at where they were. I know that people hate on. People just hate when teams are on top. They hate it because they hear about them all the time. They just get sick of hearing about it. So and I understand that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can be polarizing because of his style of play not being the most exciting, but you got to commend the Thunder for being a great team 3 straight years. And then I told you how all my desperation teams all went south, being the bounce back being, I believe, New Orleans, Dallas, Milwaukee.
Yeah, for the first time ever, I went under on New Orleans and I was right. So this is the I'm going under on New Orleans. For now on, I'm going under on New Orleans.
That was the one I changed that at the last minute, and I
thought the Phoenix Suns were going to be the worst team in the world in the league. I was wrong. We thought Portland was going to struggle because Lillard wasn't going to play the whole season. We were wrong about that one. We said Sacramento would be terrible, that they were not.
I thought I picked
5 wins.
Oh, was Portland one I changed?
No, Portland you went with. Portland you did change, yes. But Sacramento we both said would be terrible, and we were right.
I think everyone I've changed, Sacramento, I believe, had like a over and under like 35. Like, there's no way they're in hell they're
and we were
reaching
and
that.
LA was the one where you said, well, if I go over on one, I got to go under on the other. So you went over on the Clippers and under on the Lakers, and you were wrong on both. I was wrong on the Lakers. I was right about the Clippers. The Clippers did worse than
the Lakers and Golden State. I said one of the two will have to be it. And I picked Golden State over the Lakers, and that was the problem.
Right about I knew I was wrong about Golden State getting over 46 wins. You were right about them going under.
I thought that was, oh, that was the one I
correct.
changed.
That is
Yeah, just everything I picked was all
Mhm.
my all my second guesses were completely wrong. Chicago, I didn't think Chicago would blow it up. I thought they would go. Toronto was one I knew I got
And you know what's
right.
bad about Chicago? The Bulls, they actually
It
played
came
really
very
well.
close.
They played really well to start the season. So that, and then they just absolutely bottomed out in the second half of the season. And that's what
And
made them good.
Charlotte, we were also correct on. It
Yeah.
not we. I guess Charlotte, we were correct. We thought they'd be good. San Antonio, we didn't think we. I don't think
Well,
anybody
their
thought they'd be
over
that
under
good.
was well. The reason why I like Charlotte going in, we were right about it, is that the over under was so low. It was 26.5.
Yeah, they were down there with the tankathon teams.
And
So yeah, I
they're
can,
better than that. Yeah.
and I could say in the end, yeah, it was good. I picked those, but overall, I did terrible this year. And
Well,
being
maybe compared to the previous year, yes. I mean,
yes, compared to again
you
every
batted
change.
500, and I did the same. Batting 500 is not always best when it comes to over under prediction.
No, we were not good at that this year. Any other final thoughts? Or yeah, that I think we wrapped up the over. Is there anything else? Any overall thought you have as we close this regular season?
I want to see serious basketball. I want to see if they're really going to stick to their guns for a second year in a row on. I like the physicality because I feel like that was something that was talked about a lot when the playoffs started, where I don't know when it happened. I got a feeling that the league basically told the refs, hey, let these guys fight it out sometimes. Don't call whistles on everything. And there was a sentiment that people like the intensity and the physicality of playoff basketball compared to the molasses of the regular season. And because the regular season was so destitute in the last month, I wonder how quickly the referees can adjust to the postseason physicality. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, are they just going to be having like shock when they see these guys like having like jujitsu on one another under the paint?
I Playoffs, they let them play.
They do, but it's so different from the last month, and you know how these referees like to make it about them.
I know, and the refereeing is a problem, and it's always been in every sport and
So
whatnot. But
let's just,
anywho, I guess we should
let's,
be thankful.
let's just see if the physicality picks up. That's really what I want to see. I
We
want
should
to
be
see fighting.
thankful that the season has ended. This godforsaken slog of just what should have been a glorious. We now have all these streamers in. We now have Peacock and Amazon giving out fun, good broadcasts. And
Mhm.
just one quick note of speaking of just broadcasts, man, everybody hates inside the NBA now, don't they?
They do, and I think it. And
They've lived long enough to become the villain, haven't they?
they did. And I think it has. You know, I was reading about how Kenny Smith is now basically joining ESPN as a what's the word? Like a correspondent on their regular programming, because Michael Malone was on that program and now he's leaving to coach the Tar Heels. So it's like Kenny is being like sunk into this pit of despair that is ESPN. You know, it's just, you know, man, like I've been previewing WrestleMania with a couple guys and I saw something, and Pat McAfee is very popular, and I understand that it's all about getting clicks. But I think I talked to you about how like we have a main character problem in not just wrestling, but in sports and in entertainment. And that's what ESPN tries to do. They try to be more entertainment than sports. And I think that's the problem, is that Disney has more wealth than any other corporation in the world. So they can throw as much money as they can to keep their relationship with the NBA and the NFL and all of these other things. And the league will take the money, but they don't respect the product. And I do like the fact that NBC, and I know that Fox doesn't have any NBA rights, but Fox does have rights to other sportscasts like the World Cup. And they actually take the product seriously. They actually try to educate you and give you historical reference of this is this and this is that. This is a broadcast that happened years ago with Bob Costas, and here's Bob Costas. And I'm glad that these other leagues have finally branched out of the ESPN umbrella to go to NBC, Amazon, CBS, Paramount, Fox, and you can actually put a new coat of paint on it, and you can actually be educated by people who know what the hell they're talking about. I'm not trying to dissuade Chuck and Shaq and Kenny. They're very intelligent. It's the producers, Adam. It's the way it's produced.
Yeah. All right. So,
Like, I know that's a long rant, but I think that sports in America has a Disney problem. I don't think it's a betting problem. I think that's a small part of it. I think it's a Disney problem. I think Disney has this one vision of what's all entertainment needs to look like, and it sucks.
I just look at it as this. It's like Walmart. Well, you have every single sports under one umbrella. You only have so many resources to go around.
Yeah.
So if you want to own the rights to the NHL, MLB, and the NBA, all which are going on the same time right now, well, we can't give all resources to everything. So the choices are a lot less, and you just get what you get.
And no one says no to the money. Look at Rob Manfred. He basically took a pay cut so that he could go back to ESPN. Because you need the money. If you're the league, you're the league owners. You have to please the owners. In order to please the owners, you need the revenue, which is the money from Disney. If you don't get the contract with them, there's a really good chance as a commissioner you're going to be out the door.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of out the door, that wraps it up for us for the regular season.
The NBA play-in leading into the playoff. Adam, it's a bit of a weird phase for this portion of the NBA season, because the regular season was really, really dark at the end with a lot of tanking teams and a lot of teams that were already locked into the postseason. Now we are in the postseason, but we're not in the playoff phase of the postseason yet. We have 8 teams, and it goes down to 4 after the play-in tournament is finished.
I always say it's the worst time of year. This is just a way to give owners a couple $1 million. This was the anti-tanking.
It was a TV revenue push for sure. It's never going away either. It's never going away.
The anti-tanking incentive and all of this. And in the end, what do we have? We have a sub 500 Golden State Warriors team. Remember the first year that this, like San Antonio was like the 10 seed, and they had like Pelicans. 35 wins, and it was embarrassing to have them in. To say you're having a playoff and to have this sub 500 team in there, like, why are we having Miami?
It's almost like the best loser, like the best tanking team made the play-in.
Congratulations, you kind of tried. So here's.
And I know we're focusing on the play-in matches. I did want to ask this because we got more details about that tanking reform methods. One of them, or the one that's getting the most traction, really seems to be one that creates a very much a lack of incentive to get into the play-in if you're a team that's trying to get lottery balls.
And by gaining traction, everything I have read that said nothing is gaining traction, and everything was received with extremely lukewarm of this isn't good. Like, this isn't,
So what you're saying is that maybe the trades or the league floated them out there just to see what the public opinion was.
I think the league floated out there to see what the owner's opinion is and what the competition committee is, and they're like, these all are very mediocre at best, and we're not thrilled.
I'm not going to deep dive into it, but the Cliff Notes version basically is if you don't make the play-in, but you're outside of the worst 8 record teams, you have a good chance of winning the number 1 pick, a better chance than you did before. So some people are thinking, wow, what's the point of being in the play-in? If you're the Warriors, what stops you from just losing out, to finish the regular season,
And then also, why should we have you being in the play-in and then you being rewarded the number 1? It's all terrible, but we're not here to discuss that. We are here to discuss. We are now in the play-ins. Again, every year I say I genuinely do not care about these 2 games because this is not good. I don't want to see a Miami and a Golden State. And we've said for the past few weeks with the West, it's very good. It's these very few feel-good stories of having the Clippers and having Phoenix and having Portland and
It's funny you call the
Charlotte.
Clippers a feel-good story. They've been feel bad all the way up until the trade.
They had, well, with Phoenix and the Clippers particularly, they've had such negative auras around them for the last year and few years. To have them finally be like, we were able to jettison Harden, I guess, just jumped ship, but there is hope. Like, we don't have our pick. They were like, what, 6-21 to
They
start
were
off or something.
6-21 to
They
start
were,
terrible.
yeah, they were terrible to start, and all of a sudden it's like they're going to give the number one pick to Oklahoma City. This is going to be. Then all of a sudden, hey, we got Benedict Mathurin, we got Darius Garland. We have a youth injection of what was, I believe, the oldest team in the league, rivaling Golden State. Like, it was just.
I think they're still one of the oldest, but definitely not number one. They were number one leading into that.
Yeah, because you got rid of Harden and you replaced it with Garland, who you instantly
right.
get.
And I mean, you cut Chris Paul. Bradley Beal's
you cut Chris
Paul, but he got hurt. He's been out for almost the entire season.
So yeah, you have a future you can see, and then that's a good sign. And then Charlotte, we had mentioned all, like,
they're the most interesting team because their net rating is by far the highest among the play-in teams. So
how would they look with a healthy lineup, and can LaMelo Ball stay healthy, and what do we have with this team? And I was like, oh, this is a fun team to watch because they can actually all play. And the last year was, well, Brandon Miller or LaMelo, were one of those two were always out, guaranteed. Yeah. Now they're here. I see the plan. I see it looks nice. It's fun to watch. So
their offense is fantastic. Their defense is much improved too, which is what the key to what made them better. And the Blazers, another one, like I think you already mentioned them. You felt terrible for them to start with the Chauncey Billups saga, but now they've literally play their way into this playoff scenario. So we'll see what happens. I'll say this. I've always philosophically felt like I really enjoy the play-in. When they added it, I thought it was good, not just for TV revenue. I like the idea that if you lose, you're done. And yes, I know it's mediocre versus mediocre. It's not always the most intense or well-played matchups, but I like the stakes. I like the idea that if you don't win, you're finished. That doesn't always make for dramatic results. I remember last year we had the Kings. They hosted the Mavericks. They got blown the doors off, and they didn't even look like they cared. And you get those teams. The Warriors, a lot of people are suspecting that's one of them. I'm not sure about the others. We'll see. The results are going to speak for themselves because all the games are. This is the one difference too. With the new television deal, the play-in tournament, which is sponsored by SoFi, they are on Amazon Prime. All of the games are on Amazon Prime, not split between ESPN and Turner. So ESPN is not going to start their playoff schedule until literally the playoffs start next Saturday. And I would have to assume NBC is the same way. I don't know about Amazon with the playoffs. I haven't looked that deeply into the schedule, but I have to assume they're going to get some games, huh?
Yeah, of course. It's all streaming, and there's no local.
Right. But what I'm saying is, like, Amazon's got all the games. All the play-in games are on their service. So that'll be it'll be like a hub. It'll almost be like a mini tournament, basically, which is what it is.
Oh, that's just. I believe this is the one thing like America can get behind. I believe everybody's sick of, where is this game? Well, I gotta have 7 different subscription services to watch everything. So this is on Peacock. This one's on Prime. This one's on Disney Plus. Like, just put them all on NBA TV app, and then, well, here's my code for this. Here's my code for that. It's beyond frustrating. And anywho, let us get into our play-in previews. Let us start with the East. All right, we are starting off with Orlando and Philly. This is a tale of a very, well, let me just say, to start off, beginning of the season, didn't we say Philly can literally give us anything? They can go 60 and 20. They could go 20 and we were not.
When we did the over, I tracked the over-unders that we did before the season started, and the thing that was funny is when I look back on what you had predicted for the wins, you put a question. I put a question mark because that was the one team you weren't sure if they would go over or under. I think the number was 46 or something like that. And I think I went
I'm like,
over and I just barely missed it because it's just they're so Jekyll and Hyde-ish, but they're very talented. Their coach, Nick Nurse, is a good coach, even though he's very stubborn with how he likes to run his starters to the ground. But they have found some mojo with guys like Quentin Grimes and Kelly Oubre Jr. as a two-way player. VJ Edgecombe has been fantastic. He's not going to win Rookie of the Year, but he's going to be a finalist, and he's a star for their future. There is an issue there involving Joel Embiid with his appendectomy. Here's the thing about an appendectomy, Adam. It's a major surgery, but it's something you can recover from. It's the timing. He had the appendectomy just this past week. So the chances of him being ready for the play-in I don't think it's going to happen.
And that is what we sort of expected. How many games can Embiid play?
Yeah.
How healthy will he be all season? And so here we have it. If this had happened maybe a couple weeks earlier, they would just go into full tank mode and be like, okay, we're just going to go for ping pong balls. But they're stuck here.
Tyrese Maxey was too good. Tyrese Maxey was too good. That was the problem. And so was VJ Edgecombe.
And now, however, we're going into another Jekyll and Hyde team. Orlando, you have a coach on the hot seat. You have your star core who really can't play together. You went all in by getting Desmond Bane as a shooter, but you're not featuring him. I see this as sort of a walkthrough for Orlando due to Embiid's injury. Am I wrong in that assumption?
I think that it will be tight. It feels like every time I watch Orlando in one of these games, like in one of these must-win games, it's always a tight game because their offense, even though it's slightly improved over the last couple of weeks to finish the regular season, their offense is not potent enough to just blow teams out and put teams away. Their defense is still good. Their defense is still, I would honestly say, very good. Definitely better than Philadelphia's. The problem is they just don't have enough togetherness as a squad. And then also the injury to Franz Wagner that plagued him for probably most of the season. That was a big hurdle too. He looks like he's healthy again. So we'll see how he looks in this matchup. I would say that the loss of Embiid is huge because even though I like Wendell Carter Jr. and Goga Batadze, that is probably the weakest part of that's probably the weakest point of their squad. And if you don't have him and you have to play, I guess it would be Andre Drummond, huh? Who's the other bigs that they like to go with sometimes? Not like Trendon Watford.
It's Drummond, and that's kind of it.
It's going to be tough. And it's
Adam Bona.
The shot blocker. Now, the guards, I think that Philly will outplay them. I think Philly will run circles around them. I will say this too about the Sixers. Paul George, he gets tarred and feathered a lot. He's podcast P, he's way off P, the drug suspension. But I'll say this, since he's come back from the drug suspension, he has played great. I don't know, I'm not sure if he's just super motivated because everybody's been crapping on him or he knows he has to be the veteran leader, but he has been really good on both sides of the floor, shooting threes. I think he can offset the absence of Embiid a little bit in terms of offensive punch as a veteran and also be a veteran leader because Paul George has been in the playoffs. But I do think Orlando has more horses. They even picked up Javon. The problem is for Orlando is their backcourt. Like they were so desperate to find help because Tyus Jones is a flop and they dumped him. They had to play Javon Carter, who they picked up off the street in the waiver market. And he's actually playing a lot of minutes. And that's kind of scary if you're the Magic. And we know Jalen Suggs can't shoot. He's a good player, but he can't shoot. Is that something that they can overcome? Is Tristan Da Silva ready for prime time? He's a good player, but this is only his second year in the league, Adam.
So who do you predict will win this matchup in the right to face the Boston Celtics?
I like Orlando in a close one. I think they're going to triple down on Banchero and Bane and Wagner. And they're going to ask guys like Anthony Black and Suggs and Da Silva and Noah Penda to just get stops, and not ask Paulo to do too much defensively, because it's even though it's a must-win scenario, it is a 7-8 game, meaning if you lose, you get one more shot. So do you think that's in the back of their minds too?
Oh, no, I think it's just going to be Orlando due to Embiid being out. They could just sort of hammer it home in them. And
I'm sorry. What I meant by that is, do you think these teams have it in the back of their mind? Well, if we lose this, we got one more chance to make the playoffs. Do you think they care?
no.
They just want to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. I don't think teams punt on play-in games. Like, that seems kind of stupid. You never know what the mindset of some of these teams. We'll talk about one in the West in a bit. But for this, I like Orlando in this one. And then Tyrese Maxey's crew will just have one more shot at it. Will Embiid say Philly lost the game here to Orlando and they have to go to the elimination game on Friday? Would Embiid be ready? I'd say probably not. Would you say the same?
No, he's out for weeks on end.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. An appendectomy is kind of like, it's almost like it's like when you get your gallbladder removed. like you could be out for weeks, you could be out for days. It depends on how you feel. But knowing Joel Embiid's injury history, he'll probably milk it.
So in our second matchup, we have sort of a three-way dance, and if I were a little less lazy, I would toss in that ECW I believe it was the Purple Perfect Strangers was the theme for the three-way dance. You have Charlotte versus Miami. The winner gets the right to play Philly to get the 8 seed to then play Detroit. Who do you have first out of this? Charlotte, Miami to move on to play Philly to play Detroit.
Well, who's Terry Funk in this scenario? Is that Miami? Because they're just always in it. They're like, they seem to be like always in the play-in. I don't know I can't figure out the adverb, but it seems like Miami is always in the play-in. Am I thinking this? Like, aren't they the only play-in team to ever make the NBA Finals?
They're the one, as we had go all the way back to the previews. We said they don't care that they're going to be here,
but
they're not.
But them making the finals in 2023 was sort of that like stamp of approval for the play-in tournament. You see, you got to give these teams a chance. The thing that people forget though is that Miami was actually originally a 7 seed. They lost to Atlanta in the first one, and then they survived Chicago and they dropped down from 7 to 8. So it wasn't like they played their way in. You know what I'm trying to say? But to each their own.
The difference is Miami would always start slow. They'd have a very awful
They actually
first
started
2
fast.
months.
Literally, they were the fastest paced team in the league.
And then post deadline, they would be the hottest team, and they'd always go in hot because they started bad so early. This was quite the opposite. Mm-hmm. We had our Adebayo 83-point game,
and that was late in the year against a terrible Wizards team. But still,
we've had literally nothing since.
True.
This team has just been treading water. There's been really no life, and then you have now an upstart, exciting Charlotte team. How do you see this matchup?
Well, it's hard to not like the Charlotte Hornets for how they've played. They're sort of like everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid on them. You do wonder if the experience that Miami still possesses will save them against Charlotte. This is also obviously because this is the 9-10 matchup. The loser goes home. It'd be kind of, I don't want to say odd, because the Charlotte Hornets losing a play-in game, it wouldn't be odd. It's just how well they've played in the last few months, where it's like, oh, wow, they're the top team. Everybody's talking about them. And then they lose one game and it's over. And you're like, whoa, what happened? And, but that's the risk factor of having to be in this play-in scenario. If you're a 9-10 seed and you lose, you're finished. I pause because I know that Miami, first of all, they always played each other before this anyway when they were divisions. I know that doesn't matter anymore, but they're familiar with one another is what I'm trying to say. They played each other many, many times. And there is a lot of experience there with Norman Powell, who is an all-star. He's dwindled a bit because they were messing around with the lineup where he was coming off the bench, and I don't think he was really fond of that. But I really like Kel'el Ware. Pelly Larson has had some good moments. Jaime Jaquez is a candidate for I believe this is it 6th man of the year or MIP? Which one is he kind of up for right now?
I don't believe either, but
Well, he's been a six man for the most part, and he's played really well. Hero is playing well, and we all know about Bam and how he went bananas on the Wizards and had the second most points in NBA history in a game. He has been he's been steady. He's averaging, even with that 83-point game, I think his point average is around 23 or 20. So it's not like he's just absolutely exploded and now he's a super duper star scorer. It's just he just had that one incredible night. But he is a great player and they need him. And does Charlotte have an answer for Bam? They're going to try to get Kalkbrenner and Diabate in foul trouble, because the secret to their success is that their defense, interior defense, got a lot better down the stretch. You know, the other side of the coin is that their offense is out of control good, because they have three guys in Ball, Konkanippel, Brandon Miller, who all just make tons of three-pointers. So can Miami offset that with their fast pace? That's a bad mix. I mean, like, do you see a very high scoring game is what I'm going to ask you. That's what I see.
well, this is the NBA. The seeing anything.
Oh no, I'm talking about warp speed high scoring game, like 140 to 120. That's what I'm talking about.
No, it'll be no. It won't be. You unless Charlotte just doesn't know what they're doing and just shoot terribly to start. But
yeah, they added Kobe White too. The trade deadline, they flipped him for Colin Sexton. He's been playing okay. You know, he gets to the free throw line a lot. Miles Bridges is steady. I have to imagine he's going to guard Powell. And I mean, you can't put Miles Bridges on Bam Adebayo, right?
you can do whatever.
I mean, that's a super small lineup, but I just got a feeling that the game plan that Spoelstra with that no screen offense that they do is that they're going to try to fill the gaps and try to get into those areas where they can get offensive rebounds, and they're going to try to get the big men for Charlotte in foul trouble, because once they have to go small with Grant Williams, that's when they're going to start attacking inside. That's what I think the game plan Miami's going to have. For Charlotte, it's bombs away.
So who do you think will take this in the end?
I think Charlotte being better in net rating is what's going to win it out. I think they're just better. I think down the stretch in the second half of games, they're just more resilient than the Miami Heat are. So I'll just go with the Hornets.
And then in the three-way dance, do they take out Philly to move on, or
if it's Philadelphia and Charlotte, that's a close game. I would go with Philadelphia. I think the Sixers would probably beat them. I think there's just a lack of experience for Charlotte that's going to clip them at the end. It's unfortunate for them because they've finished so strong in the second half of the season, but this is a lot to overcome for them when it comes to beating two teams that have a lot of playoff experience with all of their veterans between Philadelphia and Miami, if those are the two teams they wind up playing.
I think I'm gonna go with just hope and youthful hope, and it's fun to see Charlotte in, and Philly just sort of.
By the way, the winner of that elimination game would play Detroit. So,
which I would imagine Philly would hope maybe we could get Embiid back for the end of the playoffs.
And Cade Cunningham's back. They soft launched him in the regular season with a couple of games. He looked okay, but he'll be ready. He'll be ready for the first round.
So, all right, you have Philly and Orlando moving on. I have Orlando and Charlotte moving on. Sounds good. Now let us move to the Western Conference. Okay, Western Conference time. Feel-good stories, as what we had mentioned. The aura-free, the negativity's gone. Phoenix playing. Finally, they're back. It's been a while. Good to see the young kids in Portland getting a shot. You have Phoenix, who really just spent a lot of first you had Green injured, then you had Brooks injured.
Yeah.
And Portland, everybody's been more or less healthy. It's just, I think they've kind of topped out at what they are. What do you see in this matchup?
So to summarize what you were saying too about those two teams. So Phoenix, their defense has been what's been holding them up for the most part, even though, and also they gave the keys to Devin Booker. They did the whole thing where they They traded away Kevin Durant. They dumped Bradley Beal on one of those like long-term buyouts that last 5 years just to get rid of his contract. And they said, okay, Devin, this is your team. You pick the coach. They hired Jordan Ott, who came from Cleveland. They shoot a lot of threes. They have the personnel to do so. They have Grayson Allen. Colin Gillespie's been awesome. He's not going to win MIP, but I think he was in the running. He has played so much better than he ever did before up to this point. Mark Williams, they picked up from Charlotte, and he's been a very good rebounder for them. And Jalen Green had been injured for most of the season, but when Dylan Brooks, who was awesome all year for them, when Dylan Brooks broke his wrist, Jalen Green played really well and kind of bailed them out and bridged the gap between Brooks's injury time where they didn't completely fall apart and they stayed alive. So, and then there's Booker. Booker is a superstar. Do you think it's too early to say Devin Booker's a Hall of Fame player? Because I think
yes,
he probably is.
Yes, we're not declaring anybody into the Hall of Fame.
I think he's a Hall of Fame player. He led a team in the NBA Finals already, and he had a 70-point game.
Yeah, but if he gets injured, let's say this year, next year, never plays again, you'll be like, well, his career was awfully short.
Yeah, and he's also played very well to finish, like down the stretch. He's been kind of like leading the way, sort of taking the bull by the horns. Their offense is not great, even though their 3-point shooting is out of control good. They just shoot a lot, but their efficiency is middle of the pack. Portland, I don't want to call this a culmination of their rebuild, which is funny because Damian Lillard, who them trading him was the start of the rebuild. He's back with the Blazers after Milwaukee bought him out, but he's not playing because he had a torn Achilles in the last playoffs, and he's not. He's not going. I'm just kind of thinking out like he is not going to play in this play. It would have been funny if he tried, but no agent zero. But they have a lot of guys who aren't zeros. Denny Avdia, all-star player. He has been a free throw shooting beast. He's almost like the Israeli free throw merchant. that's a fair way to say. I mean, he has been like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the Northwest. It's been like all he does is live at the free throw line. Shaedon Sharp's had injuries, but he's back. He's played well. Don McClingan, I love him. I think he's going to be a star. Like, I think he's the next Rudy Gobert. Do you think that's too much to say?
I think that's too much to say.
Oh man. And then Drew Holiday's been a good leader. Jeremy Grant's been decent. He's all Jeremy Grant reminds me of like Mitch Richmond. Like all he does is get buckets. If you need buckets, you go to Jeremy Grant. Don't ask him to do anything else. And Toumani Camara is a good two-way player. Scoot Henderson, injured all season, finally started to play. He looks good. And it's been solid. We can make jokes about how we felt like Chauncey Billups wasn't trying his hardest as the head coach of the Blazers. Once he got fired, I mean, he's not officially fired, but you could kind of call him that. Tiago Splitter, I think, has done a fairly good job of kind of holding up the team and pushing forward. And in terms of their, like what they're best at, I feel like their athleticism and their ability to get out and transition is what makes them good.
So who do you have going on?
It's very much in terms of like the way they play. I think Portland is going to desperately try to speed up Phoenix. The problem is if they do that, Phoenix is going to make a ton of threes. Every time they play, it's a competitive game. And at least in the regular season, it was. I just have trouble seeing, like, if they put Drew Holiday on Devin Booker, which is funny because we saw that in the NBA Finals back in 2021. I don't think that's going to go well for Drew. And if he gets in foul trouble, Booker's going to live at the free throw line. I'll go with Phoenix, especially if these postseason games, they kind of get to a snail's crawl. It turns into a coaching strategy fest. And when that happens, the game slows down mightily. And I just like Phoenix in this scenario. I do think it'll be a close game. I don't think Portland's going to get the doors blown off of them. What do you think?
I will also go with Phoenix. And that brings us to our three-way dance. Western edition, we have the Portland Trailblazers, who will get the right to play the LA Clippers or Golden State Warriors. I'm going to just jump in right now.
I have never felt more confident that a team is going to get dropped out in the 9-10 game than the Golden State Warriors getting beaten by the Clippers. I'm just going to say it right now.
That's what I was going to say as well. So this
I
will
mean,
be
I'm not trying
quick
to make it
item.
like I'm not trying to make it a super quick thing. I don't want to talk about the matchup. There are things that I'd like to talk about involving, Brandon Pajemski, who's played a lot. Will Curry play at all? He came back briefly off. He's been coming off the bench to finish up the regular season just to see how he looks, and he's looked good. But once they were missing Jimmy Butler with the torn ACL, and then they made the trade for Kristaps Porzingis, who's still going through that chronic illness issue, and he doesn't play back-to-backs. It's just been. I watched the Warriors, and I'm just like, are you even trying? Moses Moody had a terrible freak injury to his knee, so now you're just down to Pajemski, Draymond Green, Guy Santos, DeAnthony Melton, Pat Spencer, and Curry, and it's like, is this team even good enough to win a postseason game? Period. And they're going to be on the road. I'm just breaking it to you. They're going to wind up playing in LA.
Now, would you like to say anything about the Clippers, or shall we just move on to the who gets the 8 seed with the right to?
I like the makeup of the team now. With Mathurin doesn't always explode offensively off the bench because that's where he's strongest. He comes off the bench and he just gets to the free throw line. I will say this. Even though he doesn't always have the best games, Garland is good enough to sort of pick up the slack. He's a traditional like star point guard who can do all the things that you ask, get assists, score off, hit threes off of the bounce. And then Kawhi Leonard's just been such a steady player. This is probably the healthiest he's ever been since maybe 2017. So that's a good sign. I wonder if the thing is too that they were always criticized for not developing any depth, and now they're at a point in their franchise where they have to develop the depth. They could not. Chris Paul got cut. Bradley Beal got hurt. Nick Batum is on the verge of retirement. And they had to rely on guys like Yannick Niederhauser and Jordan Miller and Kobe Sanders. And the two veterans that they've been able to rely on, and they get a lot of playing time because Ty Lue loves his veterans, is John Collins and Derrick Jones Jr. But you wonder if Ty Lue is going to, because he's a very smart coach. I wonder if he's just going to throw a real knuckleball at Steve Kerr, and he's just going to go with a lot of these younger dudes like Miller and Sanders and Isaiah Jackson and really and Cameron Christie, and just really mess with the Warriors. Or do you think, Adam, that they're just going to double down on the veterans again?
We are in agreement. So Clippers, Portland, who gets the 8 seed?
I actually like the Clippers. I will go with the Claw in a must-win game. That's what I'll say.
That I'm not going to argue with you. I also agree that is a good story.
I feel bad for Portland in this scenario because they would go from 8 to out, but it is a realistic possibility for them. They're a very young team. You have to have these experiences going forward in the next years to be able to learn and grow as a playoff team. But this is their first time back since 2021 for the Blazers. The Clippers have been here a million times. They went 7 games last year with the Nuggets.
All right, then. So I think we are mightily set for our play-in preview here. So for Andrew Riche, before I say my name, any last final thought or your?
I'll say this. This is the longest we have known who the play-in teams are going to be. So it's weird. I've been having almost anticipation of if the Warriors played I've been knowing for over a week now that the Warriors were probably going to play the Clippers and the Hornets were probably going to play the Heat. So I've been kind of thinking up these matchups for a good while. So it's actually been kind of interesting that you almost in the back of your mind, who's going to play in must-win games in the play-in, which usually never happens. Usually you don't know who's going to play until maybe literally the Sunday afternoon of the last day of the regular season. That was not the case this year.
All right. Sounds good. So I'm Adam Murray. Have a good one.
Take care.